All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole.
Down the rabbit hole.
And my trusty co-host here is Josh.
None other.
And I tell you what, we've had some great responses on the show, and with being in the early stages of development, I want to thank everybody that spent some time listening to our show and sent us great emails and Facebook messages. I'm honored, to say the least.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And it's really cool because, I mean, we're, of course, the people that we know are the ones that are listening more. But, we've picked up people that just happen to stumble upon us. And before, as we were talking, I think it's time that we kind of promote it a little more. But I want to hear from everybody out there that watches this episode, or anybody that's willing to, if they could get on our Facebook and tell us where they listen to us the most. Because I think that gives us some serious areas where and who we should market to.
Well, and some feedback would be nice too. So, things that you'd like to hear about. Like, I know I got a couple of friends that I was talking to that they went on Facebook and they were going to leave. They got their imaginations piqued, and they'd wanted to. Oh, let's come up with some ideas for those guys to talk about, because we absolutely will. Well, if you give us some ideas, we'll absolutely come do some research and. Stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah. And we want to talk about things that are just a little off that you aren't going to hear in the mainstream media, and then put our own thoughts into it.
If it's fascinating and interesting, that's what I'm looking for. Something that's going to, outside the box, but fun and interesting.
And for everybody out there that has messaged us and asked, to be a guest on certain events, we are working on that right now. Quite honestly, I know, due to our meetings, that you and I came into this going, well, if we get a couple people listen, it'd be great. And we're getting more than a couple now. So we're going to try to do call-ins and bring in some guests. And we talked in the very beginning that we'd do this. This is just earlier than I expected.
Yeah, right. We're just kind of getting our technique dialed in at this point and trying to get it figured out. But yeah, I mean, we're eventually going to be able to have guests and call-ins and all that stuff, hopefully.
And that's going to change. I love bringing in other people's opinion. We're working on a few guests right now that are very interesting to the world that we live in. And the world that we live in has become very interesting going into 2014. And we got some good stories. So, Josh, I'm going to let you start off with yours, and let's talk this shit out.
Okay, well, one of the ones I wanted to talk about sort of ties into what we talked about last week, or I guess it was last time, whatever.
Yeah.
Last episode about the hiring homeless people to work at Fukushima.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I read this other article about how DARPA is doing a robotic challenge right now. They're putting together a robotic challenge to design robots that will go into these disaster situations. First responder robot is that's basically what they're looking for, is like a first responder robot.
Okay. So first of all, they're not thinking about, and this is where this is where me as a person, I go, what the fuck? Aren't they investing their money into something on making this not occur again? Instead, we're going to create a new technology to perpetuate it.
Well, but at the same time, we've already got those out there, right? So the messes that are out there, we got to figure out how to deal with those messes.
I agree.
It's not just for nuclear cleanup. It's for any sort of flooding, earthquake,
alien invasion,
right? It could asteroid impact.
Well, and the asteroid impact, that's really interesting that you said that, because there are some of that going on. But I want to know more about these robots.
Okay, well, so I watched this great documentary, and I highly, highly recommend it. It's called The Great Robot Race. It's on Netflix. It was another...
I need to see that.
It was another challenge that DARPA put out. DARPA, they're the Defense Advanced Research Project, sort of like the mad scientist division of the government, where they just make the craziest... They research the craziest things out there. So this robot challenge that I watched on Netflix was to come up with the first self-driving car. Okay? And it's fucking fascinating.
Oh, it's
fucking fascinating.
I saw a brief thing on it. Mercedes is working on it as well. I think that's the wave of the future. And you know how much it would cut out on the drinking and driving and all that stuff that goes on with
I can't wait till my car serves me martinis while it drives itself.
Yeah, that's that's party like Charlie Sheen.
Right. We'll get to that. But yeah, so their next this new challenge requires that, okay, here, I'll give you the 8. It has 8 criteria, right? So they're looking
Okay.
for robots that have these 8 criteria. It has to be able to drive a vehicle. Robots must drive a utility vehicle across a 76-meter obstacle track.
So roughly 80 yards.
Okay. It has to climb a ladder.
Wow.
It has to climb a narrow industrial-type ladder with a 60-degree incline.
Holy shit.
It must travel dismounted. Next robot need to traverse a rough terrain course covered with tripping hazards. Has to be able to break through a wall. Using power tools and their own hands, robots have to break through panels of drywall. Has to be able to remove debris. Requires that robots to clear lumber and pipes that are blocking any entryways. Has to be able to close valves. Robots need to locate and close different kinds of valves on walls and on a table. Has to be able to open doors. Robots face a push door and a pull door. And has to be able to connect a fire hose. Pick up a fire hose, unspool it, and connect it to a fire hydrant. Now, this one robot has to be able to do all these things.
Holy smokes.
And I just think that's super fascinating. I was reading about one of the robots that they have in here that can kick through cinder blocks, like turn cinder blocks into dust just by kicking it, like as a wrecking ball for a foot. So it like, yeah, right. And
that is crazy.
so I just thought that was really fascinating, especially springboarding off the using homeless people where that's an option. Well, you know what I mean? But if we had these robots that could go in and do the cleanup or, floods or earthquakes or whatever, go in and search for bodies and clear debris away. And I just think that's a really fascinating
Yeah,
way to go with it.
Well, and we've heard in the news, we've been hearing for years. I mean, I mentioned this on one of the following or the previous shows, is that where's the flying cars? Where's that stuff that we were promised that we would have? And oddly enough, and this is a funny ass story, is my first experience with robots in the home would be a story of a friend of mine. She has one of those Roomba,
yeah,
Roombas,
absolutely.
And she's got one of those. Well, what it didn't do, and this is where having ones that can kind of think for themselves and have their own awareness of where they are in the world, this robot cleaned her house. Well, she happens to have 2 small little purse dogs. Well, it skidded through a pile of shit and skidded it all over the house. And so they were cleaning up shit in every corner because GPS driven. I mean, it made sure that every piece of that floor was smeared.
And then you got to clean out the room, but too. Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh,
that is hilarious.
I wondered when I said, how's your Roomba? And nobody fucking said anything. And I was like, what? And she's listening, which
that
she may be.
Awesome.
I won't say your name, I promise. But if the robot knew, it was like, oh, there's a shit sensor, or it has something where it could tell that it's.
Well, I saw a Roomba. It wasn't a Roomba, but it was somebody else's version of it. Because I think it's funny we got off on the Roomba track, but the way that the Roomba works is it sort of works in a circle, like it starts and then it sort of like spirals out,
right,
and just kind of bumps into shit along the way and then re-establishes its route.
Right.
But the one that I saw first, it has a 3-dimensional laser that it shoots out, so it takes a 3-dimensional picture of your room, and then it plans a route accordingly.
Could this actually be? Could this be something that could report back to the NSA?
It's probably.
Does it have that kind of? I mean, if it's wireless, I don't know how that stuff works. And
I don't know because I don't think Roombas are. I don't think they have like an internet connection, right? I think it's just like I don't know honestly, but I doubt that they have. I mean, unless they need to do updates or something for that. But that's something I don't.
Oh
I
wow,
don't know,
that's a whole. We're gonna have to look into that because that's what. But keep going. This first responder thing, that's incredible. How many? Okay, imagine the first responder robots. We had that technology available when 9/11 happened.
Well, and actually, that's where the article says that is where some of the first responder robots were used, but they were really limited and really delicate. They were just pretty much just a little camera on tracks, so they could go in and they could see what was going on.
Oh, like remote controlled or something.
Yeah, but they couldn't. They couldn't move debris, and they couldn't. open valves, or they couldn't, drive a car into where a location or whatever. So what they're trying to do is get something that can, and they want them to be able to work autonomously, right? So they don't want somebody behind the controls. They want something that can work and think by itself for the most part, so.
Yeah, no. And this is what's so weird about that is, all right, if we create something now we already have, depending on what stats you believe, we have all these people out of work.
Right.
Well, right. And a lot of that is due to technology. Technology has cut out a ton of jobs. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just there's a fact that, where it used to be it took, 3 people to do a job. Now it's a computer and 1 person.
Well, but one of the things that I also heard is that a lot of the problem is that it's not that the jobs are there. It's that we don't have the training for the new jobs because, it takes fewer people, but a lot of people don't know how to program a 3D printer. Well, a lot of people don't know how to program, some of those, what am I thinking of? Like those, you ever watch American Chopper, where they have those, where they make those fucking amazing rims where the fucking thing just water blasts.
Oh yeah,
people don't know how to program that shit. You know what I mean? People
the CAD machines.
Yeah, right. Old machinists. People aren't doing that by hand anymore. Now it's all programmed, and so it's not that the jobs aren't there. It's that we're not training people to do the jobs that we have available right now.
And that's so true. Well, think about it. We were talking earlier before the show. We were talking about programming, and I really feel that where we are as Generation Xers, we're like that bubble where we had no technology. I mean, not growing. I mean, I had a black and white TV as a kid.
Oh shit, yeah, right.
And now, I mean, I'm thinking of when remodeling the house that I'm gonna build an area where I can put an 80-inch TV in my front room.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
You think about that, it's like 80-inch TV. I thought it was amazing when we had like a 26 or whatever that oddball Zenith was, and it was color. I mean, it's incredible, and to see the difference between just that part of it, now apply that across the board with every part of our life. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is,
and it takes different. So what is the time frame on this contest?
Well, they compared it to the robot race, where they were trying to find the autonomous cars, where they did one year. The first year, nobody did anything. They all the robots sucked. All the cars crashed. I think the farthest anybody made it was like a mile. Okay, but the next year, they had, I want to say, 5 robots cross this. I want to say it was like 126 miles through the desert.
Jesus,
through the desert. So and. It was through. I'm telling you, man, this is one of the most fascinating documentaries I've ever seen. It was through the desert. They had to crawl along this
What was the name of that again?
It's called the Great Robot Race.
The Great Robot Race.
Yeah, it's the DARPA challenge, and it's
DARPA challenge.
Yeah, okay. And I don't know. It was just fascinating, and I think that if they can get any sort, in the article they said that left to its own devices, that this sort of technology would probably take another decade. But with DARPA trying to do this challenge, they're hoping that within the next 2 to 5 years, that they can have some massive development, because they're, anything you put your energy into, you put your money and your energy into, people will find a way, and they're doing some interesting things, because they had over 100 participants, like different teams that wanted to participate.
Wow.
And they did some interesting things where, because these robots aren't inexpensive to make, so they put together a digital what do you call that, like a what do you call it? Like a simulator, right?
Yeah.
So you could build it in 3-dimensional space on your computer and see how it would work. And they have a simulator that you can run your robot through in a computer program rather than in a realistic program, in reality as well. So I thought that was, they're trying to make it as available to as many different people as possible. And the winners get $2 million. Like, whoever comes out with this gets a $2 million prize.
Wow.
And
then if the person that developed it is smart, they have patents.
Oh, right.
So I mean, $2 million is a drop in the bucket to what they can actually earn from this.
Well, and a lot of the teams from what I was telling you about before, the Great Robot Race, ended up doing the Google cars. Right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of those teams ended up being hired by Google to make the Google fleet.
Well, and I saw, and I've seen those in Spokane. I thought that was really weird for some reason, driving down the road and it catches your eye. But Yeah, it looks very futuristic. But that makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you use that technology?
And I got to tell you, I talk about this because, everybody's like, oh, where's my jetpack? And I want a jetpack. But you know what? I got to tell you, the one technology that I'd really like to see before I kick the bucket is a self-driving car.
Oh, fuck
I hate driving.
I'm not a fan of driving.
I hate driving. I hate it.
I
know some people love their cars and they love to drive.
I love my car. I love cars.
I like driving, especially in the snow.
Oh God! And we live and where it's been lately. We don't have a lot of snow. It's just shit for roads.
Right, it's shit. Well, and it gets real icy. I mean, we've had a couple of real icy. I mean, we slid through a fucking intersection a month or so ago. So it's like if I could have something, I could just get in and push. Say, take me to fucking Starbucks or take me home, Jeeves.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Just sit back and take a nap, or take me on a road trip and then just like.
Yeah,
that's the technology I'd like to see before I die.
Oh, yeah,
that's the one I'd really like to see.
That would be one I'd invest in. I'd love to have somebody that cleaned my house. I'd like to have the Rosie from the Jetsons.
Yeah, Roomba's right there though, man.
Yeah, it's close.
That's got they can't do dishes yet, but
Well, and that's why I'm putting 2 dishwashers in my house. You know what? It's amazing though. I don't work in a commercial kitchen like I used to. I still treat my kitchen like a commercial kitchen, which. For any of you that are out in industry, you know that that's not a good thing.
Oh, I go over there. It's great. There's shit. Like, there's food all over the floor. I'm like, that's how you know this guy's a chef. Because there's fucking food everywhere. Like, this motherfucker is cooking.
Oh, yeah.
There's like, this is no joke. Like, this is not like.
It just happens. I mean, I don't know.
That's what happens when you're cooking.
Yeah.
I get it, dude. I get it. That's why I respect.
Oh, absolutely. And again, we're using these killer ass kettlebell
cups from my buddy made these. I've got to give a shout out.
Oh,
fucking
sure.
awesome.
These are beautiful. They're comfortable. They work awesome. They keep the booze at the right temperature.
That they do.
But I got to admit, doing the kettlebell, first time besides playing with your kettlebells, a few times coming over, my first kettlebell workout's been the last week and a half, and I got to tell you, kettlebells are ass kickers.
I love them.
They're just unbelievable. So, anyways, there's a tangent.
Totally tangent.
It's down the rabbit hole.
Right.
Yeah. So, one of the things about this robot, when you said that, I Googled, what does it mean when robots self-learn? Because what's made me think of that is when you said they want these to be autonomous. They want nobody to be behind them, want them to control themselves. And the technology for that is called SOINN, SOINN, Self-Organizing Incremental Neutral Network.
Okay.
And it makes robots think like humans. I don't know. Is this safe? Is this something that we need to be worried about?
Well, I'll tell you. If you watch that Great Robot Race documentary, this is something that they cover on a real quick. They kind of glance over it real quick because I'm sure that's the first thing that comes to people's mind is, oh fuck, Terminator. You know what I mean?
I wasn't thinking Terminator, but I'll be back.
Or the AI thing, are they going to start thinking and feeling for themselves or whatever? But, it took so much for them to figure out how to make these cars see the road and be able to adjust, because at each speed, like the faster your car is going, the farther in front of you have to be able to adjust.
Sure, it's
right?
that, a car length for every 10 mile an hour.
Right. So
yeah.
Right now, all we have is, we have cameras, and I think there were some people that were using video cameras. There were some people that were using like infrared. There's all these different ideas. And right now, I just don't think the technology, I'm not worried. Right now, it takes so much effort for an autonomous robot to even make the calculations that it takes to look in front of it and judge that there's an object there and then move out of the way. I mean, becoming self-aware or any of that shit, like, isn't even on my radar. Like, it's not even, I'm not even worried about that. Like, that's not, is that what you were talking about? Is that what you were?
Yeah, it's just, all right. So if it was up to me, my, not to say this without sounding pretentious, but,
Potential way.
But, a lot of times people go, oh, you're such a Renaissance man. And after the third person that said that, it's like I went from eccentric to Renaissance man, and I didn't know which was worse. And I understand the people that were saying that to me after I looked it up and read about it is, I really truly like, working with fire and digging in the garden with my hands. And there's some things that I really like. I love the idea of knowing different languages and being able to communicate in a respectful way in cultures. And, all the things that, during the Renaissance were that Enlightenment period, I find that I'm very much connected. And my wife will tell you that in a past life, I had to be something other than, some kind of person that was involved in that. I love the arts, and I'm such a geek when it comes to like the Nat Geo shows and the History 2 channel and all that. And it's not on the stuff that's coming up. It's on the stuff that has happened. And, so I get confused. I get concerned when it comes to robots and stuff. Not because I don't think they're very important to the overview and opportunity that offers the world. It's just a very, it's very hard for me to imagine how they work into my mind, into my life, through my mind.
Well, I don't think those things are going to go away. Like, I mean,
well, I hope not.
If you want to have a garden, you're always going to be able to have a garden.
Yeah.
Will there be a gardening robot maybe someday? Maybe. But you always have the choice to be like, oh, I want to have my own fucking garden. I don't want to have some robot planting my tomatoes for me or whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Sure. But I even went as far this last year and I bought one of those Amish push hose. And that sounds interesting. Told my wife I was getting myself a push hoe, and she's like, "What?
Amish push hoe?"
And and I don't know. It's not that I think the world's gonna end. In a couple stories today, I look back over our past shows, and which, by the way, is very hard for me to watch me on camera. You're sexy as always, Josh.
I can't either.
But
I think it's silly, but it's fun.
It's the part of it becoming part of our life. I'm like going, damn, one EMP, electromagnetic pulse, which the technology is out there. One of those could set us back to the Stone Age. And so there's a part of me going, if that happens, holy shit, we've lost all that technology. But at the same time, look how we've come as, and not as Americans, but as a people, where we've gone in the last 4,000 years. And
I think it's one of those things that's an inevitability, right? Like finding a faster, more economical, less time-consuming way to accomplish anything is going to. We always look for the path of least resistance, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, that's sort of. I think it's an inevitability. I mean, did you watch? This is another fucking fascinating thing, sort of springboards off that. And I saw it recently in an article I read too about these 3D printers, and they're 3D printing homes, like houses.
Oh yeah, you mentioned this to me.
And I just read one this week where they were talking about how they want to start sending robots up to the moon and 3D printing like structures on the moon, right? Like,
fuck, that is. Well, you think about it, yeah.
The thing I read was like we can build I forget, like a 1,200 square foot home in like 20 minutes with this printer technology.
Holy shit!
So at least the foundation, not the foundation, but like the foundation, the walls. I don't know that they're putting the roof on. You know what I mean? That might require, but for the most part, like putting the walls up, putting the, all the detail work is probably still going to have to be done by people at this point. But I know that sounds like, oh well, it's sapping jobs from people that know how to lay brick and, blah, 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 blah. But again, people that know how to program these fucking printers. And, it was funny. I was reading an article, some of the comments, because basically what it is like a big printer for your computer printer. It's just this big nozzle that goes back and forth. But instead of ink, it sprays out concrete. And the guy, so one of the comments was like, amazing. "Oh shit! What if you get hate to see what happens when you get a fucking ink jam on one of those, right? Or you run out and it just starts spattering. You know what I mean? Or you get a bubble in there or something. Like, I'm sure there's issues that are gonna, that will occur. But
sure,
I mean, shit, man. If you could, if you find cheap ways to house people and God, the one that I saw, they were even talking about how it could print and then climb, so it could do multi-story building so it can climb as it prints.
Unbelievable.
And just it's a really interesting time. We're living a really fucking interesting time, and I'm really fascinated to see where all this shit goes. I don't even know why we were talking about.
We're talking about robots and but it is changing our lifestyle. I mean, right now we're able to do this podcast and talk about stuff in a somewhat free country. And I say somewhat free because the whole NSA thing, that kind of pisses me off. But it is very interesting. It makes you want to see what happens the next day. And I love that we live in a time where it's making me go, okay, what is our reality going to be? And I'm always that 5-year ahead guy. And I know I annoy the shit out of Josh with my
annoy me.
well,
Love
my
you,
constant
man.
like,
Fucking
all
love
right,
you, dude.
in a month from now, or and I'm always looking ahead instead of relishing in the moment, and that's something that I'm working on, which you're helping me with that a lot. Looking at where I'm at now. I mean, and that's just positive people in your life, but I'm so interested to see where it goes. I'm scared that we might fuck it up before we get there.
Well, look, we inevitably fuck it up, right? Like, but it's gonna. Again, I go back to it's gonna happen. So being afraid of it. I mean, you can either be afraid of it or you can like realize that that this is what's happening.
Yeah,
and
that's a great point.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to embrace it wholeheartedly, but you do have to find some sort of an equilibrium with it, right? Like,
sure,
because it's a reality of the existence that
we're living in now.
We're living in,
Yeah.
and we are getting more and more all the time. Like if we don't have to send in firefighters into asbestos-laden buildings that fall down. If we can send a robot in to clear the debris away, I mean, I can see the benefit in that. You know what I mean? If we can take some of the risk out of the human hands and put it into something that is
replaceable,
right?
Yeah.
We can just fix a few parts on. You know what I mean? It doesn't have a family or a
and that's you think about. We think firefighters, and I've actually heard people say this. Now, as some people listening may know, and you were there. You came up the next morning when our house burnt down,
right.
And I was 16 when our house burnt down, and and the thing that's really weird about that is those firefighters. That's their job. They come out and they fight fires, and I've heard people say, well, that's their job. If they get hurt, they know that going into it, but they're doing it for a purpose and for a reason, and there are current societal superheroes. I can't always say that about the police, because I think sometimes I say that
it depends on
the situation, and there's
why you got into it, and that's a whole other
and so that's a whole different. But firefighters genuinely but I got a chance. I filmed a cooking segment with Spokane Police Department, and oh my God, I got to spend some time with these guys. They let me put on the clothes, get in the fire truck. I mean, I felt like I was 5 again. And these men and women are so noble and so thankful for who appreciates what they do. Even though anybody that's ever lived through a catastrophe in the fire department, police departments there, those men and women, I mean, they change the situation normally for the better. And on a human level, I think that sending first responders into a burning building or into that to protect those lives of those people is a great thing. I still know that me personally, having that human interaction as it's going on is still going to be important. So I don't think you're going to get the fire trucks like you see in the old Disney cartoons where they got the little buckets and they run down. I think.
Well, right. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to, right? I mean, it used to be like bucket brigades, right?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be bucket brigade, and then
Yep.
they figured out fire hydrants, and so it really comes down to the way that specifically the fire department end of the first responder
response
is you're trying to minimize risk, right? You're trying to maximize time and minimize risk. So
well, and that's a great way of saying it. Maximize, minimize.
yeah, you're trying to be as efficient as possible and be and minimize the risk as much as possible. So if you could send a robot into the smoky filled.
Well, and if you have people being able to look to see if they're survivors or be able to get people out of there, I think it's an amazing thing, and I think most firefighters, even though they're noble and they've taken the oath to run in, I think they would appreciate that.
Well, right, and again, and that's I just think inevitably that's where it's going to go because the technology that's it's a technology thing. There's it's always going to move forward. Technology is always going to move forward, and they're going to try and minimize their risk and maximize their efficiency as much as possible. And if you could send a robot in there and do the same job without having to put a human in harm's way, I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't either. And with the robot thing being stated, this kind of plays into the viral video that's gone out there about the devil baby.
Okay, now I saw something about this. I saw like a blurb, but I did not.
And maybe we can put a picture up for you to see somewhere in here. About here.
I'll see. I'm not that savvy yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, Josh is way more savvier than I haven't even drank that much. Jesus, but he's much more savvy on the technology stuff. And those of you out there that have helped me through the years, thank you. I don't even understand how Twitter
So break
works.
down this devil baby for me.
All right.
What is this?
So the devil baby came out viral. It went out there as a devil baby in I believe it was New York, and it's been the biggest viral. They called it the first monster viral video of 2014, and it was a robot. And so you think about this actually had people honestly believe that, the Antichrist is here and, oh my God, bend over, kiss your ass goodbye and pray. What I love about it is they came out and they said, no, we were making this movie we're making this viral video to help push the movie Devil's Due, which is a movie coming out by 20th Century Fox.
So this was like guerrilla marketing?
Well, kind of, yeah. Okay. It was the special effects team, and they wanted to do the prank. They put the prank together and they pulled it off. And I don't know, and it doesn't state in the article, and it's on Mashable.com, Devil Baby behind the scenes. And I just want to give a little bit of stats to how long it took for this devil baby to be recognized as being a real baby in New York in the stroller. And so it took $200 to build the stroller and the devil baby together.
That's it?
200 hours.
Oh, hours.
Hours, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said dollars.
No, 200 hours.
Okay.
I might have said dollars. I don't know. It doesn't state a dollar amount. Maybe that's what I was thinking about. It is the body was fiberglass, but the body itself had 11 servo motors. So those are the little motors that adjust the eyes and the ears and the nose and the mouth.
Right.
Yeah, and makes it scream. The sweat that the baby had on it, or looked like sweat, was done with KY jelly. So it has that that look of just
glossy
sweat bullets. Yeah. All the veins.
Just fucked look.
Oh, yeah. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, my God. I mean, when I saw the picture, I was like, that is so realistic. That's creepy as hell. The veins in its head were done by airbrush artists. They took, for the projectile vomit, they took water and a thickening agent.
Projectile vomit? What, you have to break. What happened? What was the prank?
Well, the prank,
because I don't know. Like I just saw the headline. I did not read.
So these
any
people
deeper into it.
Go out, and to break it down simply, is they go out and they have this baby.
That's a horrible.
Oh my God, it's disgusting, but it looks real. And they take this baby out in New York, and they basically have this prank of them being with this devil baby, like the spawn of Satan. And it's just really bizarre. Well, anyways, the stroller has 2 DeWalt electric drills, which gave it a max speed of 2 miles per hour, so it could be controlled on its own. The vomit was made water, thickening agent, food coloring, so it was green, like you saw in some of the old movies. Yeah. And thickening agent, it could seriously be, for all the cooks out there, and
cornstarch,
all of us, it could be cornstarch,
flour
water. It could be a slurry, a slurry with flour and water, also called a whiteout for all you cooks out there, a whitewash. Excuse me. There's some other thickening agents, and they could have used one that they use in for elderly assisted living when they have a hard time chewing, which is one that's stable. So I found that really interesting that they said a thickening agent. They didn't say that they bought like a pre-made vomit, which is possible for sets that they do. The puppeteers used RC model airplane controls for the baby in the stroller. The devil baby's cries and other sounds was an iPod connected to a transmitter that sent signals to the speakers hidden in the stroller. The glitches it had, which I think is cool that they actually said what went wrong, which plays right into building a robot.
God, that baby looks fucking scary.
It. When I first saw it, it actually turned my stomach. I love babies.
Do you?
And I do.
You can have them.
Well, I have one. All right, she's not a baby anymore. Hell, she's gonna be a young lady. But they said the vomit projected too far and actually hit one of the cameramen. The devil belt on the stroller broke when it hit a deep pothole. The shot the video during the now infamous polar vortex, which they're calling it, got so cold that the motor controlling baby's eyes froze and could not blink, and blasted with a hairdryer. They had to blast it with a hairdryer to break it loose, and all the hair on the baby's head was individually stuck in from a goat.
I've seen that
goat
before.
hair.
I've seen it before.
Yeah, and so anybody that's ever been fascinated by FX, this was a great example of it. And
I love that your biggest problem is your projectile vomit goes too far. Like, that's a great problem.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we overshot that. But it really plays into, do our eyes deceive us?
Constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Because my first thought when I saw the picture was, what's wrong with the baby?
Yeah, right.
Then
who punched that baby in the face?
Oh my God! Thinking about, I got to cover my mouth because it's very disgusting. But that's my little bit to add on to the robot is, they're at least having some fun with the American public with the technology they've developed.
Oh, that's funny. That is ridiculous. Yeah, like I said, I saw a blurb about that, but I didn't go into it. And that's the first time I've seen the horrid face of that.
Oh God, it's just disgusting. So check it out if you want to be grossed out and entertained at the same time. Devil Baby just happened last week. Very, very funny, interesting, and sickening at the same time. But Devil's Due by 20th Century Fox is the movie that they were out promoting with that, which is about somebody giving birth to the Antichrist. And with that being said, and this is something that I want to bring up, and I'd love somebody on the Facebook to put in whether this is of interest, even if it's an interest to one person. I'd like to do some research on it. But there was and maybe you've heard something on this, and I heard another podcast talk about it, is they were talking about the Antichrist and that there was a UFO that hung over the top in an orb over the top of the most sacred place on the planet, the Dome in Israel. There was an orb that thousands of people took pictures and was seen.
Was this recent? Recently?
Pretty recent. Pretty, and I don't have an exact date on it. I didn't research it other than I heard somebody mention it, and I did research it a little bit so I could at least bring it up as a conversation piece. This orb hung over the top of religious, and that's a whole nother topic. And if we get into this, we can talk a little bit of the history of this place. But hung over the top and then jetted right up in the sky. And on Fox, I think it was Fox News and MSNBC, they both mentioned it. And one of the things that was said, and I don't remember which news place said it, but one of them said is, there is a unidentified flying object. Is he back? And I went, is he? He who?
Who the hell do you think?
Yeah, this is mainstream. I mean, and I was like, he who? So, I mean, and then I was thinking, oh yeah, could this be the opening of this? Well, on my research that I found,
Michael Jackson. That's what they were talking about.
You know what? It wouldn't surprise me if they froze his head and put him, next to Disney.
Walt Disney. That was my next one. That's funny.
That's the problem. We think so much alike. We do stories and we come back together and we have the same opinion. So we try to change it up a little bit. But we actually come to the point we don't talk about anything prior to the show. The first 3 episodes we did that. Last episode we didn't as much. And this episode we pretty much said, okay, we're not going to talk about it until we get on here. But so this orb shot out, unidentified flying object, and then reports have been is that in Jerusalem, what would be Children's Welfare in America, they have their own version of it, and they came to the Dome, and it was there was a baby inside, a real live living baby. And this is true. This was reported by Mainstream.
Wait, just a random baby?
Yeah, like a little baby boy.
Just random baby
left inside
after the UFO.
After the UFO.
This is so
and
beautiful.
now this is
Stop
this
it.
is why it's this is
Did
why
you
it's-
really?
I'm not making this shit up. And the thing is I want I want to dive into it, and there's that part of me that says, okay, bullshit meter.
Yeah, right. Off the charts.
Yeah.
Off the charts.
Then there's some things that have gone on in the world in the last few months that make me go, well, shit. How somebody just happened to dump this baby off there? I mean, people do that at orphanages, and you see in the old movies, and the Three
churches
Stooges
too, though.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
well, and did it just, is it coincidence? Which I don't believe in. I believe there's serendipitous occasions, but I don't believe that things happen just because they happen.
just randomly.
I truly don't believe that. I don't know.
I don't know.
I really don't know. But I would like to believe that things happen for a reason. But they went in and they got this baby. And the weirdest part about this story, now, besides the UFO, and they
And
found
the
a
random baby.
Yeah.
The weird part. We're getting to the weird part.
is now the baby, there is absolutely nothing that can be found on this baby.
Nothing
And,
that can be on him. What do you?
Like they can't find where the baby ended up. They knew it was taken by protective services,
But the baby disappeared now.
yeah, there's it's like in hiding, or somebody like took this baby
The
boy.
baby went into hiding.
Yeah, I don't know. And I heard this guy that very interesting
Send in the
guy.
DARPA robots. They'll find him.
Yeah, I'm sure that they have a place for it. But all right, so let's just think. What happens if this is the end of times? What happens if we ended up in the end of days?
It would be the end of days.
Yeah, and
I mean, I don't have any fucking idea. I don't know.
I'm fine with meeting my maker. I don't want to do it today or tomorrow. I mean, I want to be old, and I want to be very old, and that takes me into the rabbi. And I'm not good at Yiddish, so I'm not going to butcher his name. But there was a rabbi, one of the most respected. He was blessed twice in his lifetime, and he was either 108 or 117. They didn't know his exact birth. He had kept his mind about him right up until the moment he passed.
Until he started talking about the alien baby.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing, and both with our heritage at some point in our lives, we know that in the Jewish religion, Judaism, they don't necessarily believe in Jesus Christ as the Son of God.
The Immaculate Conception.
Right. There's I love the Sam Kinison on the Immaculate Conception thing. He was like, and Sam Kinison is my idol, and for all those out there that say that I look like him, it was not a plan. It just fucking ended up that way. I didn't say, hey, I'm gonna be short, stubby, chubby dude with long bleached hair, and I happen to have
But since I am,
I'm gonna go with it. But I actually had a guy come up to me in a bar and say it, and I thought I'd be offended by it, but I take that in great.
This is a
great
compliment.
honor.
Man.
Yeah, hell
Sam
yeah.
was the shit.
He was a genius. But anyways, he said, with the Immaculate Conception is like, you know what? Yeah, sure, you're a virgin that got pregnant. He's like, that better be the only Son of God. I better not, be coming up and, in a year now there'll be another Son of God. You better be the only one. And,
Well, wasn't Zeus always coming down and turning himself into a bull or
oh yeah,
an eagle or something, a swan,
Absolutely.
and like fostering children? I mean, I don't know. Don't get me started.
there's tons of historical facts of.
No, those aren't facts. That's mythology.
Well, yeah, facts. Yeah, you're correct.
That's
It's-
mythology. That's
it's
straight up mythology.
But how much of that is real? I mean, how much of that?
None of it.
Oh, come on. There's got to be some truth behind every story. But so let's going back to this rabbi that died either between 108 and 117 years old, and kept his word. He did a sealed for his students. He did a sealed envelope that
Kept on Funkin' Wagnall's front porch since noon today in a mayonnaise jar.
yes, and it may be. Well, you know what? That is so
I'm
right.
totally
on.
dating
Oh
myself.
my god!
I'm totally dating
Oh,
myself.
I know, but another great that walked this planet. But they opened it up, and in Yiddish it said Jesus, not Jesus Christ, not Jesus, Son of God. It just said Jesus, and there were crosses all over this envelope, message that was left by the rabbi, and said not to open until the anniversary of his death. Wow. I mean, now they find a kid, and he mentioned that, the Son of Christ or the Son of God. No, excuse me. He did not mention the Son of God. He said Jesus, whatever that may be. And I just find it very interesting.
Wait, so he left a cryptic message that said Jesus with crosses on it.
He said the Son of God will be Jesus. But he didn't say, Jesus, the Son of God, or Jesus, the Messiah. He said Jesus.
Okay, so how does this relate to the baby that was this?
Well,
was it on the anniversary of his death or something, that this baby was. I don't understand how it relates.
Okay, no, thank you. So, and I'm gonna pull this up right now because I want to make sure that I have the history of the Temple Mount right. I do not want to
offend anybody
more
than we already are.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to offend people because we have foul mouth in our topics.
Right.
It's another thing when we're talking about something serious. So the Temple Mount, prophecy spoken, says that when the destruction of the Temple Mound falls, it and is rebuilt, that is the time of the end times. And with the death of Sharon, which was for years ran Jerusalem. Some would say he was a murderer. Some would say that he was an amazing human. But he was in a coma for 7 years and died. And this rabbi said that when the next leader of Israel dies, and I got to pull this information. Like I said, I didn't research this. Is something I heard, that when it dies, the Temple Mound will fall and be rebuilt, and that will be the end of times. So with him dying, and then an orb, and now there's reports of a baby being found, and all the shit that is going on in the Middle East right now, I'm just thinking, wow, serendipitous to say the least. And is anybody interested in it? Is this just my, 3:00 in the morning, by myself going through pages and pages of weird shit?
Well, I think it's certainly fascinating. I just, I have such a hard time wrapping my head around. Look, I don't believe that we're the only ones out here in the universe.
Oh, I don't know.
But do I think that we get visited? I don't fucking know.
That's the answer.
I don't know. But, I don't know. A random baby showing up after the glowing orb, I could see where people might construe that as, as some sort of, like you said, serendipitous thing. But I've seen Jesus in French toast. I had a friend that took me to see. I lived in Orlando. I had this friend, and she took me to St. Pete, and there was this bank building that it was all glass windows. You know what I mean? The building was all glass, and there was like this weird shape that formed in the window. I don't know if it was because of the sun beating on it on its side or whatever, but it was this giant, resembled the Virgin Mary. And you went out there and there's people with all these, there was candles everywhere.
Jesus.
Jesus. I think if you're looking for, if that's what your frame of reference is, if that's what your reality is, that you will find things to reinforce your belief set, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's something that will that reinforces your belief set, that you will latch onto that naturally.
And I think that goes back to the monkey shit. It goes back to us being, big monkeys.
Right. Hairless monkeys. Well, some of us more hairy than others.
And a good friend of us did. This would be really cool for us to do on air, and maybe we can talk to the company. They're a huge company, but going and having your blood tested and then finding out where your ancestry comes from.
I'd like to do that. I was thought about getting a DNA test. I'm curious about that.
For me too. I want to know it, and with me, there's some major questions. And
me too. I don't know any. I know very little about my background.
So that would be really cool. And I think that if that interests anybody, maybe we can do that and talk about that, and maybe bring somebody on that's done it. But one of our friends, Mr. Strider Dennison, he came back and he was over 70% Neanderthal, is what he came back. And we're going to have Strider
way over.
we're gonna have Strider on the show.
Hope you're listening, dude.
Yeah, I missed the shit out of that guy.
Yeah.
And
he wants to be on the show real bad.
Yeah, I know.
He was jealous.
He is
one of our oldest friends. He goes way back. Good guy.
Absolutely. Bad influence, good influence, best of friend. But
influence. He certainly makes life interesting.
He does. It's really cool that we've all, our little close group has got to that together. But anyways, getting down the sentimental highway too far, I think that it would be really cool to know our ancestry for ourselves, for medical reasons. I know in my family there's some medical things that my mom's dealing with that her parents didn't deal with, and there were some questionable things that went on before my mom was born with my grandparents. And I'm thinking, whoa, what happens if she was adopted and wasn't told? Because that happened in the 50s. So just learning about that and knowing for sure would be cool.
I have slight reservations about having my DNA on somebody's
file
somewhere.
Thank you for saying that.
I have slight reservations about that, but at the same time, I think my curiosity, my thirst for knowledge and just pure curiosity is going to overshadow that.
That's where I'm at. I mean, it's cheap. It's like $100.
Yeah, and now it's like $99, right?
Oh yeah, and so what took years ago, it took Maury Povich show or Springer show, and I know we've both dated women that could possibly been a Springer episode. I know that
Let's
was
not
always
go
a
there,
fear
shall
of mine.
we?
Yeah, no. But with that being said, that's where people got their DNA test, or it was something more serious.
Well, it's paternity test, right?
Yeah,
Who's the dad?
Who's the daddy? Anyways, yeah, we're not going to go there. But that's something that's very interesting, and to take that all the way back and say, knowing our ancestry, now if we take it to that little baby that is found in the Tipple Mound.
Oh shit! What if he's got some other letters in his DNA strand that we don't even have? Like some
Well, that's what I'm thinking. It's
the C, the G, the T, or the A, whatever they are.
Well, how fucking weird would that be to really have a species on this planet? We both talked that we're both CeeLo fans, and we both agreed totally at the same time that this guy is so unique and so talented that he has to be an alien.
He just he looks like he's wearing a CeeLo suit to me. He just doesn't. He doesn't look comfortable in his own body. He looks like he's wearing a suit to me, like some Men in Black, crazy shit. Like I can see his face opening up, and then there's some little thing inside there.
Oh God, yeah. And you know what? He is somebody that is so genuine that at least he comes across that way. That how could he be from this planet? And I don't know. I have a lot of respect for the guy, a lot of talent. There's very few times that I get all teared up. I consider myself somewhat of a tough guy when it comes to that stuff. And it's getting worse now. See, the older I get, the more sentimental I get. I don't know. Maybe that's knowing your own destiny.
I found that smoking pot is what does it for me. Smoking pot makes me cry at everything. Like when something, and it's so funny. Like I don't cry when I'm mad or when I'm upset or I'm sad. I cry when something is really beautiful. Like
God.
TED Talks. Like sometimes I'll watch TED Talks and somebody will just be out there doing some amazing fucking beautiful thing in the world, and you're just like, oh God, like I'm so glad there's people out there doing something good. That's what chokes me up. Like that's when I get emotional.
Same thing with me. It doesn't take pot to do that for me.
Me either, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it's really interesting, if what that all means to who we are as people. And CeeLo is one of those people that I don't know if I'd want to know if CeeLo was human or not, because I think it would take some of that amazed at how brilliant he is away.
Wait. So, if you found out that CeeLo was an alien, you would be less amazed?
No. No, it's well, I truly believe that. I truly believe that. There are aliens that walk among us. I just believe that, and I know that's a little, for somebody that is considered an academic due to my long history with formal education. I think it's really weird, and I feel like this is a safe place. And I'm sure someday during a job interview, God forbid if I have to do one of those again, they're gonna watch these podcasts and go, we don't need this whack job on our team. But
Or they'll find it fascinating and be like, "Oh, let's talk to this cat." You know
yeah,
what I mean?
well, that's very true. I don't know, but being honest, I believe that there are these people that are so unique. They got to be better than the rest of us. It metaphysically speaking, and so
I don't think we're alone in the universe.
No.
I mean, I don't.
How could we be?
You know, I heard it. I put really interesting, like, and I don't. This is really putting it out there, but like belief, the word belief, and like faith, those are replacements for facts.
I agree.
Right. So until
Well, belief has lie in it.
I see in it. Well,
I can't spell, but I knew that.
Has a B in it too, you know. But I'm a guy who tries not to rely on beliefs. You know what I mean? If I don't have some sort, I like the idea of being an evidence based guy. Like I have my fucking beliefs, I do, but
we all do.
I try to be as evidence based as possible, and I do believe that we're not alone. I just think it would be ridiculous to think that there's not at least bacteria or funguses or some other thing that, you know, is there like another, you know, sentient, you know, humanoid thing out there? I don't know. That I don't know, but it would be really hard for me to believe that there's not some one-celled paramecium fungus virus thing out there beyond us that we're just either we haven't figured out or we're not smart enough to understand that it's alive and we're just not able to realize it, you know, those types of things,
or we're too arrogant to recognize it. I think to think that we are the only ones in an infinite space that could possibly be the only intelligent life
pretty
is
arrogant.
Very arrogant,
pretty arrogant.
And you know that gets in, and it. The reason it's still a hot button after all these years is because it challenges faith. Yet, in the recent couple of years, we've had major religious people, including the Pope, that has come out and said that it would not challenge their dogma if there were aliens out there.
Well, and scientists too. Have you heard of the panspermia?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's. And explain that a little more, because I can't.
Panspermia. My understanding is that because we have asteroids and we right now we are going through, our planet is passing through a comet's tail that just went by. So we're passing through the tail of this comet, and so there's debris, right? There's debris that's been traveling through space that's colliding with our planet.
So it's like a big mud ice ball that could...
Ice or rocks or whatever that have been floating around in space and you know, may have picked something up and then delivered it here. You know, there's a theory that's where funguses and mushrooms came from, is that they were delivered here from an asteroid or something that struck Earth, and then that they had because certain... viruses and one-cell organisms can live in a vacuum. They can survive in a vacuum, so they can survive in space. And so they come down here, they strike our planet, and then we have all this oxygen and all this, you know, this
moisture, humidity.
Right? We have the environment to you know, flourish. So you know, the panspermia theory is that this planet was seeded, not necessarily by other, you know, beings or whatever, but by, you know, debris striking the planet and things that were, you know, just collected out in space and then just decided to come here to this little oasis.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I have heard researchers say that panspermia goes into, it could be as much as us as humanoids being seeded. I mean,
right.
Or if you want to take the religious aspect of that, and this is where theory, religious dogma, and science all collide, is where you're talking about how we got here. And you could, you know, creationism, evolution, whatever your belief is, those two can't be the only ways. We can think about evolution in a creationist term. Maybe Adam and Eve were, you know, an alien male and a Neanderthal woman.
I don't have any idea. I'm not even going to pretend like I even know.
But I mean, you think about that's a pretty fucked up thought. If you thought that the story of Adam and Eve was a real account.
Okay, say it again now.
Okay, so Adam and Eve, let's say it's a real account.
Okay.
And let's say that story was not just a story in the Bible about a man and a woman producing the planet.
Right. That God,
But
right.
that God, and let's say God is
Because what's the story? God created Adam out of mud and then
Right, and
made
then
Eve out of his rib.
well, and if you go to, and not to say that I've spent a lot of time
Yeah, I'm no
on
theologian
the synagogue, but yeah,
by any stretch.
me neither. But there's a story that Lilith was the first.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, people forget Lilith. Like, people don't choose to just leave that out of the equation entirely.
That was our second choice for a name for our daughter, was Lilith, and not our daughter though.
Our daughter.
Our daughter. Yeah. See, we're hip with the end times, you know.
We're trying to bring it around as quick as possible.
So, but Lilith was when we researched the name, it kept coming up into Jewish mysticism that there's this that Lilith was the first, and that Eve was created to be more subservient.
Right, because Lilith was in charge, and I think she was with a demon. She laid with a demon or something. I forget exactly how.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different takes on that.
I don't know for sure. Like, I know from I'll tell you where mine comes from. I read this great, and I highly recommend it, graphic novel set called Lucifer. And it's a spin-off from the Sandman.
Yeah, Sandman Comics. And
Sandman
you've told me
Comics.
about Lucifer, and I haven't.
It's fantastic. Lucifer, he gets sick of ruling over hell, so he decides to move to Los Angeles and open a piano bar. And that's where it all kind of starts, but then it just fucking goes
You
like...
mean there's a devil that lives in L.A.?
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't know.
Right.
I haven't met any
It's
of them.
fascinating. It's a fascinating story. It brings in all sorts of different mythologies from different. That's what happens when Lucifer leaves. Then I can't believe I'm talking about this right now. Anyway, when he leaves, then all of a sudden this power struggle starts in heaven because he's somebody has to take over for him to fill that vacuum, right? So then all these other mythological guys are like, "Oh, I'm going to be the new David. Oh, I'm going to be the new devil. I'm going to be," So it's fuck, it's crazy. It's all sorts of madness.
Well, I want to read that just because, well, partly because it's interesting in hell, and though I don't admit it all the time, but I love comics. I love the idea of the comics, and someday, hopefully, my comic.
How can you not admit? I mean, right now, shit. This is the era for the comics
I know,
and
I
graphic
know.
novels. Like, look, I'll tell you what, man. Like, my mom has the biggest collection of fucking graphic novels
That
out of
is
anybody
so
that I
cool.
know. She is the biggest comic book geek ever. I'm not that big. Like, I'm not into them that much. I'm a little bit, but I like that Lucifer one. I thought it was cool. But my mom is fucking like,
That's
every new fucking graphic novel that comes out, she is on top of it.
well, and gosh, I love the story. I love how the stories are put together because they are. They're brilliant. There's writing, the drawing, the art, the storyline, how you can create the visual, and anyways, how it all goes together is amazing, and it's very, very arts.
Yeah, I like it too. It's like storyboards. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
like
exactly.
storyboards for a movie.
That's
It's
what
like-
I was looking for. I was looking for storyboard. Exactly. So I looked up this Temple Mound story because I talked too much about it to
all
not
over the
have
place. Sorry, dude.
not. I didn't want to say that and then say, "Oh, okay, let's move on to talking about Washington State pot laws have changed it again." Let's talk a little bit about.
Well, we're over an hour, so let's just wrap it up with this. I know you got to
Okay.
get going here at some point. So
Sure. I got to go have the shit beat out of me in Krav. So on Monday, that's Monday this week. Let me check. Yes, on Monday this week at 5:36 a.m., there was a post that the Israeli newspaper, the HAARETZ.com, Haaretz. My Yiddish, I don't know. Quietly.
Haaretz, maybe.
Haaretz
Haaretz.
quietly
Haaretz.
published a small report about a few-week-old baby found abandoned in the Dome of the Rock located on the Temple Mound in the Old City of Jerusalem. Okay, so it's the third most sacred spot on the planet for Islam, and for Christians, it's the should be the first most sacred spot for Christians. So to have it be found there is very interesting. It says that the incident probably won't ignite a fury of internet talk or speculation under normal circumstances. But with the reports of the UFO sighting over the Temple Mount on January 28th, that was of it should be December 28th, excuse me. The appearance of the infant was unleashed yet another flurry of proclamations about signs and wonders. So that's a really cumbersome, unleashed yet another flurry of proclamations. So the incident has been ignited pages and comments and on conspiracy websites. And one of the websites, and I have not been to this one, it's called AboveTopSecret.com. I think we need to put that as one that we go to. And
I've heard of that before.
Have you?
Yeah. I think Clyde's talked about it. Clyde Lewis has talked about it before.
That's Clyde Lewis. For some of our inspiration definitely comes from the people that are out there making the stories. And Clyde Lewis on Ground Zero, he's brilliant. I marvel at his ability to weave words.
He's great. He's a little out there, but
sometimes,
he's great.
Sometimes he seems a little angry. I can't always listen to him all the time.
Well, and I listen to a lot of George Norrie too. I used to, and Art Bell, but I
love art.
I love thinking about it as like a modern science fiction theater.
Heck yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not gonna fucking mostly it's people trying to sell books, I think, and or whatever.
Yeah, especially on Coast to Coast because it's so big.
But I fucking find it fascinating. I find it fucking fascinating, and I love to listen to it. People talking about Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and aliens. Any day. Give that shit to me any day. I'm
curious.
Consume the shit out of that shit.
So on this Godlike Production is where I found the story first, and that's godlikeproductions.com. Now, we have no association with this website, and there are some religious slant to some of the stories, and I like to say that whenever I tell anybody.
It's overtly religious. I mean, you know what I mean? It's basically, the Star of Bethlehem, fucking and an immaculate just baby there.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is like the second coming. I mean, it's basically like, so is this Jesus going to be the lion or the lamb?
Well, if I was Jesus, that's not for me to say. That's for others.
If you were Jesus,
if I was Jesus, if I would be kind of pissed. Last time I was here, I was trying to help the world out, and you nailed me to a freaking cross. I mean, you come back. I think you'd come back as some badass.
But it's supposed to forgive, right? So do you come back like?
And for anybody out there, we're offended, and if you're Christian,
I'm sure we're offending you. Yeah, you know what?
But no, I just like to talk about this stuff because these are the questions that always makes people go, "Oh no, it's a religious question," or and it's.
They're touchy.
They're touchy.
They're touchy. People put a lot of weight on that.
And I really hope people know that you and I sitting here are probably two of the least most. That's
least most.
Yeah, least most. We're the least judging and probably the most listening of most people. Considered
highbrow topics, lowbrow talent.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
well, there's a reason we came up with that,
right?
But okay, so it says this is, and to finish the story, they said. Also, check on Google the story of abandoned Dome of the Rock baby. And they said that, and I quote this, an online news site says, I think this baby could very well be either the awaited Illuminati Antichrist, and in parentheses they put, in case UFO equals hoax, or second coming of Jesus Christ, in case UFO equals real.
Or random ass baby.
A random ass baby.
In case all you motherfuckers are wrong. I mean, they leave out that third option, random ass baby, that don't mean shit.
So their background on this is that they put a Bible verse in there. And this is where I said, Godlike Productions, they do put this in there. So if you're totally anti anything Bible, I would steer clear of this website. But I look at it and I find it very curious. But according to the gospel, Mary and Joseph took the baby Jesus to the temple in Jerusalem 40 days after his birth to complete Mary's ritual purification after childbirth and to perform the redemption of the firstborn in obedience to the law of Moses. And that's Leviticus 12, Exodus 13, 12 through 15 is where those come from that synopsis came from. And they go, 40 days old, and the child was a few weeks old. The event above is celebrated by Christians as the presentation of the Lord on February 2nd.
So, okay, so and am I correct in saying that this baby's now AWOL? Like nobody knows what's happened to this baby?
That's all the reports that they have. They can't find the baby. there is researchers out there that are very connected with Jerusalem, very connected with productions there, and they can't find the baby. There's people actively looking for where this baby ended up.
So, if the big if here, if this is the second coming of either Jesus or it's the Antichrist, somebody dropped the fucking ball and lost the baby, right? Like
the football was passed and it wasn't picked up. Well,
I would think that if that would be the last baby you'd want to lose, like, right? Like, you know, like it's not good to lose any babies. However,
oh my God,
like that would be the last baby you would want to lose track of.
That would be one that you would want to make sure you knew where you put them. You know, whose turn is it to watch the kid?
Right. Whose turn is it to watch Jesus?
Well, and okay, so they say Illuminati.
We're going to lose so many viewers.
So they say Illuminati Antichrist. Well, you know, I don't know if I believe in all that crap. I have a hard time grasping it.
I don't believe in any of it, but I find it fascinating.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting to talk about. You
and
know
I
what
always
mean?
go to believe because I try to rationalize in my brain. Could this be possible? Does this work?
Well, it could, but is it? That's, you know what I mean? Until I see somebody parting a sea and walking on water, you know, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
How do you?
How do you buy into it? Because we're warned. We're warned by the Bible.
But again, my mind is open. Like,
mine
my
too.
mind is completely open. Like, if I see that shit, done. Okay, you guys were right. I'm fucking wrong.
Well, absolutely. That's how I feel.
My mind is open. But until that time, I'm going to go about my business.
And a true believer of the Christian faith would tell you, well, you have to have blind faith.
Yeah, well, so would a fucking refrigerator salesman or something, right? Like,
yeah, I think Rogan said it best in one of his stand-ups. If no, I'm not even going to say that because that's way too over the top. But what
it's on Netflix. Go watch it.
What I'll say is that, you know, there's people that can be talked into anything, and I really hope that our viewers are knowing that we're bringing this up to get people to open their mind.
And because we find it fascinating, like legitimately fascinating.
Yeah,
I'm not talking shit. Like, I find it legitimately fascinating.
Well, me too. And one of the things that was one of the comments on this board after the posting of this article was, and I love this, it's from Australia, a person by the name of Anonymous Coward. He put, I quote, "If this was true, then I'd be convinced the whole thing is a staged event with the intentions of bringing forth the apocalypse." So now was this baby placed there as an excuse so they can say, "Hey, look, it's a religious war," or all this, and that scares the hell out of me because personally, I don't want to see anybody hurt. I don't want to see more men and women go and put themselves in harm's way. Though there's a lot of evil ass people out there that would do something that sick and twisted as putting a baby somewhere and creating a light show to make people go, "Okay, now I'm ready for the revelation."
Well, you know, I'm going to go right back to, I heard Rogan put this really interesting too. I love fucking Joe Rogan. You're going to hear me quote the motherfucker a lot. He said that the apocalypse is happening somewhere all the time. Okay?
Yep.
All the time. There's places on this planet right now where the apocalypse is happening fucking now. You know, on Vice.com, I watched this documentary about this. I can't remember the name of the city. It's in, I want to say Afghanistan. It's the largest city in Afghanistan. It's as big as New York City. The whole city is run by heroin dealers and heroin gangs. They traveled around with this guy that was a hitman that would kill people for $10, $10 American.
Oh my God.
You know, so that's the apocalypse is happening right there, right now.
Yeah.
Just because it isn't happening right here where you can feel it right now, it's going on somewhere all the time. Like,
oh, for sure.
You know, and I don't know. I just don't.
It's absolutely maddening to think that the world is calm and safe, even though that the fact that we are calm and safe where we're at in our environment doesn't mean the world gets to have that same experience. And, you know, I hope people find this interesting and not offensive to say that, you know, maybe we are in the end times. Maybe this is. What does the end times mean? Well, it depends on who you It depends on who you look at as being correct in their prophecy and so forth. Just like going back to that rabbi that said, Jesus, I'm not going to butcher it. Yeah, I am.
Butcher away, dude.
I'm going to butcher away. Yerashwe is what he wrote, and that's not what he wrote. He wrote the real way to say it. But that's the word for Jesus in Hebrew. And so I just find it very interesting that this is, even after 2012's gone, after we're done with the whole, 2012, December 21st, we're all going to, die. I think there's still a real big strife in the world that could cause the world as we know it to end. Well, as we know it. Well, we get to sit in your beautiful house. We get to have our laptops and this great stuff, and we're able to do what we want.
Right. That to me, that's what matters. Like this is what matters. Like all that shit that possibly could happen. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. But what is happening is you and me are recording a fucking ridiculous show for our friends out there, hi friends, and getting to hang out and drink some whiskey and speculate on madness. And to me, the is so much more fascinating than the could be. It's funny. I went to therapy for a short stint, and
did they fire you?
No, I just stopped going.
No, they fired me.
It's
another show.
I was like, we got to talking about religion, and I was like, there's no mythology out there, and I'm not saying I'm not classifying any. I'm saying any of the mythologies, okay? Any of those mythologies out there that are more amazing to me than the fact that with my vocal cords, I can vibrate my vocal cords in these little syncopations and shoot them through this microphone, and I'm able to translate the thoughts that I have through resonate the air between me and this microphone that goes out there into my computer and then out there into the fucking internet, and then other people get to hear, and then other people get to hear my thoughts. Like, I'm sorry, but there is nothing more magical than that in the world.
It's fucking crazy.
There's nothing more magical than that. Resurrections, walking on water, water into wine. That I can't see. This is empirical evidence to me that I can resonate my voice, this little thing in my throat, in this weird syncopation. Really, we all have to agree too. Like, we all have to agree that the syncopation that my voice is using means something, right?
We have to have a commonality on what we do.
We all have to agree that this means something, right? So that to me is infinitely more impressive and inspiring and amazing than.
Well, and whenever you come up with those pieces of information like you do, it always makes me the times I stumble and I sputter over words is because I'm like, it makes so many thoughts come to my brain at first. I don't know which one to talk about first. And that whole idea of, just being able to get your thought across and your ability to communicate is amazing. And then we get to tell our thoughts. I mean, holy shit, this is like showing up naked to school.
Yeah, right. And then other people, our little resonators go into their ear hole, right? And there's a little bone in there that vibrates. It vibrates just the right way that it can receive our vibrations, and they can, in their brain, translate what the fuck is coming out of my brain. Like, I know this is another stoner thought, but wow, dude. Wow, that just blows me away. That just floors me. That's so much more amazing to me than
the ifs, ands, cans,
the ifs, ands, and buts. Yeah, right. The ifs and buts. Like maybe there was a baby that the aliens left at the pinnacle of the mount or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you're absolutely correct.
Those things fascinate me, but they are not nearly as fascinating as reality.
Well, and I hope that our viewers out there know that when we talk about these subjects, we're not talking about them because we're experts on it, nor do we pretend to be.
No,
we're talking about because we want to create a dialogue and a thought process of going, all right, what about this world we live in? It's a lot bigger than we often as humanoids take grandeur in. I mean, holy shit. It is amazing what is out there on our planet, and to think that gonna limit our thought process to one path and to put blinders onto the rest of the world.
Yeah, right. That to me is just so limiting.
It's very limiting. And you know
keep
what?
your mind open mind.
Well, and we wouldn't, imagine if we, I haven't been to China. I can say that it was the coolest experience.
You have or haven't?
I have. I've been to China. Yeah. It was one of the coolest experiences, but it was very saddening. It was very sad, and it was very humbling to see how some people lived and how that was as a society. And they couldn't do this there. I've often thought about, I was in a place, communist country, that what I do and who I am would not be allowed.
Wouldn't exist.
And so I'm very thankful that we have the opportunity to do this. And I love the fact that before we ever recorded, and this is our 5th show, before we ever sat down and put the mics together, that we said, if we do this, we promise to be honest on our thought, and we promise to be honest to our listeners of what we're talking about and from the kaleidoscope of life that we see.
Right.
And that to me means a lot. And as I've said earlier, it's very fascinating to sit down and talk about these things that people don't talk about. I love that.
Definitely not. They don't talk about it out loud a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've put ourselves in a situation. I think of what is it? I'm going to say it wrong. Pussy Riot. Is that right?
Yeah.
Pussy Riot.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So Pussy Riot. I mean, they just said something bad about Putin, and they're in jail. I mean, these were ladies with young children and husbands, and they were
fucking rock and roll band. Rah!
But they said something and ended up in jail. There's a lot of what we've said that if we were under a ruler that was a religious ruler, then what we've talked about religion would be totally. They would be burning us.
Oh, and even if we don't, I second guess myself. It's funny. I was sitting back listening to some of this going, wow, we just talk about some silly shit. Wow. So, we self-govern a little too,
We do. Well, it's really hard to come into, now that we know that people are listening and we can watch the trending of people actually listening to our shows, it's really interesting to go, wow. And I think we said that before we sat down. It was, wow, I mean, people are listening to what we have to say.
People are listening. I wish people would respond more.
Yeah, I want people to respond. Or if there's a topic or they hear something bizarre,
right,
let us do the research for you. And
we'll yak about it.
And if you guys have ideas for guests, we're going to really work on some technological stuff. Like you said in the beginning of the show, is that we're going to figure out how we can get call-ins. We're going to figure out how...
I'd like to be able to post pictures or videos.
Pictures and
that
videos.
Kind of thing.
Because in that, we could create a bigger dialogue. We just didn't think we'd be there that fast. I didn't
either.
I really thought we'd have 24, 25 shows under our belt, and then we'd have to go, okay, we're 6 months into this. What is? But we already have... Shelly, one of our producers, she's going, you guys need to have a scheduled day instead of just doing it when we want. And I wasn't expecting that either. It's become real. So for that, I want to close the show on thank you to everybody that listens.
Big
and
thanks
watches.
to everybody that's listening.
Truly it means a lot to us, not only as talent, but as individuals that are coming from a real place and have real questions on what's going on in the world. And I want to start bringing in experts to help us keep the dialogue going and to make it deep and meaningful.
Well, I'd like to get better too. So any feedback is good. Right now, all I know is I know how to hit the record button on the fucking video and on the audio, and I know how to make everything sync together. And that's pretty much how I know how to do. So anything we can do to help make the show better, if you want, different topics, I don't know, whatever.
And obviously, we're willing to talk about anything.
Yeah, right. We're totally open. This is, we want. I got to tell you, man. It's a little off topic, but not really. Kevin Smith is one of the guys that I just really love. It was one of the first podcasts I really started listening to, and where he has taken his podcast empire just blows me away. He just finished shooting a movie that literally came from he and his buddy sitting down reading a story that they read off of some fucking British newspaper, And then they started a dialogue about it, and then they put it up on Twitter, and they were like, "Oh, hey, do you think we should make this movie? Because it's really fucking weird." And he was like, and everybody was like, "Yeah, do that. That sounds awesome." So what? He shoots a fucking movie, and now like it came completely out of his podcast, completely out of.
That is so cool. I hadn't heard that. That's amazing.
It's fascinating. It's really amazing the way that this shit can and does work. So,
well, and
feedback.
And you know what? This is an opportunity for somebody that's afraid to be in front of the microphone or afraid to be in front of the camera.
Yeah, I don't like it, frankly.
Yeah,
I had to be talked into it.
Yeah, well, you know what? He's awesome at it, and I love being your co-host. And
I love being here too, man. I'm having a blast.
It's been first 5 shows are awesome. I know we got at least 500 more in us.
At least 500.
Yeah,
it's a good starting number.
Well,
I
and
think.
we've got other projects we're working on, which we're going to bring that in,
Yep.
and we're now on Twitter. Right?
You tell me.
Yeah, we're on Twitter. Just started, and we'll hopefully get that posted somewhere up here. So
We'll get that all done.
We'll figure that out, and we're on Facebook, Down the Rabbit Hole.
Yeah.
And of course, you can find me on the LJ Says for Twitter, and Chef Clank, Luck Junkie, Chef LJ Clank, all on Facebook.
Sounds good.
So if you want to get a hold of us, those are the ways to get a hold of us. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thanks for listening.
Love you guys. Bye now.